Hello and welcome to part 14 of the Micky head tutorial set. This is David Ward. And last I left you, we'd gone through and created the particle hair on the head and got that all set up. And as I mentioned at the end of that, I went ahead and used the same tools to go in and kind of comb his hair a little more better. So he looks a little more dapper now. It's got him some Dapper Dan. So anyways, show you a quick render of that. So that's kind of how his hair looks now. To be honest, I don't really care for the color that much. I'd like it to be a little less bright, maybe a little darker or something, but we'll just leave it like that. One thing that can help in the hair settings is after you get it combed and it's just not looking right, you can come in here to the particle settings down here, and under the roughness here, you can mess with that a little bit. As you can see here, I've added a little bit there to make that look a little more natural. So I put the size at 0.8. It doesn't really do anything right now because for one of these to work, for this to work, you also have to have some of the uniform. So you don't want to go too high because that'll, if you go like 1, you can see it totally makes things way crazy. So we don't want that. I'm going to say 0.1, and that's still a little too much. So you can see from 0 to 0.1. And it kind of just adds a little bit of roughness in there. So I'm going to say 0.05, just to give it just a little bit of roughness. And then also the randomness here is the same type of thing. If you go 1, it's going to be way crazy. So you want to keep that pretty low. So I'm going to say 0.1 there. And then the size, that kind of affects how big the wave of roughness is. If it's smaller, it's going to be a little kinkier. So if you want to do like, braids or something like that, well, you can mess with that down here in the braid settings, but you can also kind of add some of it here. So the size, I'm going to put that back to 1. And so yeah, that's that. One thing I failed to do when we were messing with the eyeballs in part, 11 or 12, I got the concave iris part on the left eye, but on the right eye it's still incorrect. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that right eye and just duplicate the left eye over there, and we'll go ahead and rename that. There we go. Okay, so now as you can see here, this eye looks pretty decent because it's got that concaveness, but this one looks a little fakey because it's not, the light isn't acting the same on this one as it is this one because it's not got the concaveness. But since we have that on there now, it should render a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay, now to the meat and veg of the tutorial set here for this part 14. We've already done the head hair, so we want to jump in and let's do the eyebrows, and we'll go ahead and do the eyelashes as well. Probably pretty much the same technique. Now, to make things go a little smoother, I'm going to go and turn off his head hair. My computer seems to run a little better when when it doesn't have to calculate all that particle stuff at the same time. So back to the particle settings. Let's go and add a new one, and we'll go ahead and name this one eyebrows. Okay, and I'm not sure why it doesn't rename it across the board when you do that, because also if you notice, you go back to the modifiers, they're still set as particle system 1 and 2. So you can go ahead and rename them if you like. I like to keep them named just so I can know which ones I'm turning off and turning on. So this one actually be the eyebrows. Brows. There we go. It's hard to type with a microphone sitting in the way. And this one would be head hair. I can't remember if this was the left or the right one. So let's just turn that one on. So that would be his right. So we'll say right. There we go. Just hover this, Control C, hover, Control V. It's an easy way to copy and paste here in Blender. So head hair left and right. Let me go ahead and turn my Screencast Keys on. I guess I gotta go to the user preferences, add-ons, Screencast Keys, turn those on, start the display. Okay. Okay, so now let's go and turn the head hair right back off, and the eyebrows. Let's go back to our particles, and it's going to be hair again. And the emission, we're going to turn on advanced to give us a little more control of the options here. The hair length 4 is way too long. It's eyebrows, so I was going to say maybe 0.1. That's still probably too long. So 0.05 perhaps. Even that's too long. So let's say 0.025. And that'll probably work. Maybe it's a little too short now, 0.035. And we'll work with that. Okay, so since we're going to be controlling exactly where I want them, I'm not going to actually have an emission number in here. I'm going to swap that all the way down to 0. All the way down to 0. So now, when we go into particle edit, we can use the option over here to add, and then we can just paint some in there. So let's come in here, zoom in on his eyebrow area, make our little window a little bigger, and I'm just gonna click in here and let's set the radius of the brush a little smaller, say 30, and then let's put in 3 at a time. So I'm just gonna click and drag in here, and we're not seeing anything. Huh? For some reason it's putting them down there. That's not good. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing that. Let me turn off recording and figure out what's going on there. So I'll be right back. Okay, well, I figured out how to fix it. I don't know why it's doing that. It must be a bug in there. But if you turn off the subsurf, it'll paint where you want it to. But if that's turned on, it paints way down there. It's very odd. However, we can go ahead and do it there and paint that, and then when you turn it back on, it's still in the correct place. So kind of a weird workaround. Not sure why it's doing that. Like I said, it must be a bug. So maybe the developers will have fixed that by the time 2.74 comes out, or 7.3b. It might be out already. I haven't looked that up recently. So, anyways, so we are turning off our subsurf for now in particle edit mode and adding our eyebrows. So we'll just click and drag in here, and you can see that makes it really, a lot of them. So maybe 3 is too many. So we'll just click and paint on his eyebrow area there. There we go. And you could go ahead and draw on the other side too, but there's an easy way to get it nice and symmetrical. So now we just hit A to select them all. Say particle mirror, and I'll put them across the other side too. And now when we go to options, tools, comb. Okay, it's just down here under the comb settings. Just go ahead and turn on X mirror, and so now we can go ahead and deselect everything. But when we comb it, since it's a perfect mirror, essentially, it'll comb both sides at the same time. So go ahead and just get that. We can go ahead and turn our subsurf back on. So, because a lot of times when you're combing in, standard non-subsurfed mode, and then you turn it back on, it goes crazy because the faces are pointed a little bit differently, a little smoother than they were when you were painting in non-subsurf mode. So some people I've heard get different results also if the subdivisions change, but it always seems to work okay for me. So okay, so we got his eyebrows on there. Let's go ahead and give it a material because we don't want to use the same as the hair, because eyebrows are typically a little different. Usually black, unless well, for me, and because I have dark hair. But I guess you can have blondish eyebrows, but they're not usually the same color as your head hair. So, anyways, let's create a new material here, and we'll just call this one spell it correctly, eyebrows. And I guess we should put Mickey at the front. Mickey, capital eyebrows. There we go. And we'll do the same thing kind of on the hair. We don't want it to be too shiny. Matter of fact, I don't want the eyebrows to be shiny at all, so I'll just set the intensity. Just pop it all the way down to 0. Not shiny at all. Okay, so now I'm going to change the diffuse color to not quite black, just a real dark gray. Maybe just a dark brown. Let's go ahead and pull the swatch down. Brighten it up so we can see where we're going here. Maybe a grayish brown, about like so. Then it's real dark. Okay, so not quite black, but real dark. Okay, so now we go back in here and do the same thing we did for the hair and create a blend. There we go. Show the alpha and turn on the color ramp and set both of those colors to black. Go ahead and select that one and black. And bring this to the opposite. We want it to fade out because they're going to be soft. And set the alpha down to 0.3. Well, perfect sliding on that one. So we have it 0.3 fading out to 0. So if we come in here to the both preview and turn on the particle here, you can see there it's not affecting anything right now because we haven't told it to affect the alpha instead of the color. And then I'll also have to go back to the materials again and say transparency and set that down to 0. So now, excuse me, that blend is taking care of the alpha, but it's not mapped correctly, so we need to say, instead of UV, strand particle. So just like we did on the hair. Okay, so now we just need to go to the particle settings and change the eyebrows material under render, there we go, to be Micky eyebrows. So there we go. Okay, so now let's do a quick render here. So come out of edit mode, particle edit, and I don't want to, I'm going to turn off the, right now the head hair is invisible, but it'll render. See, the camera icon is turned on here. So I don't want it to render. I'm going to turn it off altogether. So now when we render, we'll just see the eyebrows. So right now it's basically just throwing, excuse me, my throat was drying out. I had to get a drink of water, or iced tea actually. But in any case, right now they're throwing some weird shadows there. So couple things we can do to fix that. If we grab our material of our actual head, Micky material, I'm not sure if I turned this on before or not. Yeah, we need to come down under shadow and turn on the receive transparent, because these particles are partially transparent, so we want them to throw partially transparent shadows rather than the solid shadows that you saw. So if we look at our render again, you can see those are real dark shadows because they're not transparent at all. So we have to go ahead and like I said, turn on the receive transparent shadows onto that material. So you can see now it should look quite a bit better. It looks better, not quite a bit really per se, but it does look a little better. One thing we can do on the eyebrow material is come down here and we can just say don't cast shadows. And also under options, if you turn off traceable, then it won't cast a shadow at all. So we can render now and there won't be shadows at all. You'll just see the particles of the eyebrows, which are very light and thin. So we'd really have to zoom in to really see them. But we can fix that. We can add more to it with the children settings under here. So right now, remember in part 13, I believe, I was mentioning that I was using interpolated for the scalp hair, and I would use simple for the eyebrows and such, because simple basically, I know it looks crazy here, but it duplicates the particle immediately around itself rather than across, you know, a vector a vertex group on the model. So this relies on the actual particle versus, like I said, the vertex group or the actual geometry of the model. So anyways, you can change the settings of that. Right now it's the radius and roundness right here. It's going 0.2 units, which is pretty good size, away from the actual particle, and that's where it's duplicating the 10 that we're seeing there. So we don't want it that far. So I'm going to say 0.02, and you can see it does quite a bit better. And then also a little bit of roundness, that'll make it spread out a little bit further. So you don't want to go too much. So I've noticed if you go too far, then it'll actually come off of the model and not be attached to it. So I was making a cactus once with the stickers, and I was like, why is that coming off of there? But that's why, because the roundness was too high. So anyways, that little bugger right there is bugging me. So I'm going to go ahead and come back into particle edit mode. I'm going to go ahead and cut that right there. Cut that off. And let's go ahead and fill in a little bit more. Let's add a few more. And let's turn off the children there because it's... Oops. And also, if you already have something combed and you want to add to it, it's a good idea to go ahead and turn on the interpolate here. And that'll add the new ones, it'll kind of calculate the way the ones around it are combed, and it'll comb it accordingly. So if we go ahead and click in here, oh, well, our bug is still in effect, so just turn subsurf back off for now. Then we can paint in here, undo those. There we go. Huh. Well, I guess we'll just have to recomb it. Kind of high up, so let's bring some of the little bush, make it a little bushier. Come down there a little bit, maybe not there. There we go. Okay, and we'll go ahead and comb it again. And I'm going to go ahead and cut some of those new ones that we made right there. Trimming his eyebrows. Okay, so that'll work, I think. Go back to object mode and go ahead and turn the subsurf back on. And now we can go in back to the particle settings, and under render, we'll go ahead and set the randomness to pretty high. Let's go all the way up to 1. That'll probably work all right. And also you want to turn on strand render, because that'll help all of these render a little faster. And let's go ahead and go to the materials for there, and back under, if we go all the way down to strand settings, let's set the tip to be 0 so it fades out nicely. Well, 0.25 is the smallest you can go. But the root we'll leave at 1, and do a quick render here, and hopefully that'll be looking a little better. Okay, so you can see they're a lot more solid, but there's way too many of them, and it's very, very bushy, so we don't want that. Let's tell you what, I'm just gonna, let's go back into particle, well, turn off the subsurf, go back into particle edit mode, and I'm just gonna go ahead and cut them all off. There we go, just shave those things off, and we'll just add one at a time. Just add a little loop here, there. Actually, let's turn off interpolate before we do that, so they'll just come straight out. Okay, and then maybe another little row here. Let's kind of do it row by row. Oops, that one's too high. Okay, then we can comb it. And hopefully this will look a little more better. You're not wanting to comb too easily. Let's go ahead and turn subsurf back on maybe. Can't add in subsurf, but we can at least style it a little bit better. This is one of those things where, you know, you can spend hours trying to get it right and then still not be satisfied with it. But we'll see what we can do. Okay, so that'll work, I think. Come back into regular edit mode, or object mode, and you can see that does look a little better, I think. So let's go back to particles, and we're going to set the render children, set that down to 10 as well, so we actually render what we see here. So now I'll do another quick render. I see that looks quite a bit better. Now you might want to go ahead and add a few more, maybe over in the outer area here. But to me, they look like they're too high. So one thing you can do, particle edit mode, just select them all. If they're like I said, I think they're too high, so I want to move them down. So I'm going to come over here to the particle settings and say disconnect hair. And you know what? It's probably a good idea to go ahead and turn off the subsurf. Okay, and then disconnect hair. And actually, before we do that, let's turn off that mirror. And I'm going to go ahead and just select all these on this side. If it'll let me. It's got some down there around his mouth still. Not sure where that's coming from. I guess it's just the bug. So we'll just delete those particles and then select what's left. And disconnect them. And then just go ahead and move them down. A little bit further down on his brow ridge, about like so maybe, and then we'll go ahead and say connect, and I'll put them right back on there. So now we go back to object mode. You can see it looks a little more natural maybe. Turn the subsurf back on. Probably need to style it a little better again, so we moved the positioning. So we'll just go to the comb and just kind of swipe over it again just to get it in its new spot. Okay, then we'll do like we did earlier and just take that and go particle mirror, and I'll put them on the other side. Back to object mode. Okay, so now I think that's in a better spot on his face. So we'll do a quick render again. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Okay, yeah, he's looking a little better. So Might add a few more children to it. I'll go ahead and say, where's the children? There we go. Instead of 10, I'm going to say 20, just so they're a little thicker. I'll go ahead and save this. And let's go ahead and I'll trust that to be correct, so we can keep going. Let's go ahead and do the eyelashes now. It's basically the exact same way as the eyebrows. So we'll just say eyelashes. Okay. And it's also going to be here. You know, let's do like we did on the head. Let's go ahead and just get rid of that one and just copy this. I guess I could have left that on there, because I'll just do this in here. So the eyebrows are using eyebrows, so it's eyelashes, and we'll say eyebrows there. Hit the little 2 to create a duplicate, and just rename this to eyelashes. And then this will maintain all the other settings, the same renders and all the children and all that stuff. So now all we got to do is tab into edit mode. Now I keep tabbing into edit mode. I need to go to particle edit. Okay, so now we'll do the same thing we did on the eyebrows. Go ahead and turn off subsurf. And this will be a little tricky. One thing you can do to make this a little easier is on your active data, your object tab there. If we come down to display, turn on wire, that'll show us the wires of our model. So you can actually see, which direction the faces are pointing, so you can actually draw across them a little easier. Okay, so now we're still in a particle edit mode. Still a radius of 3, a count of 1, so that'll be handy. Just go ahead and click and drag and just paint those eyelashes right there along the edge of his eye opening. That one got a little crooked. Let me undo that. Paint those in there all the way to there. Good to go. And then we'll do across the bottom as well. And all right. Okay, so now grab the old comb tool, go to our side view, and let's just tell you what. Let me undo that. Let's use just the tips so they're nice and curly. So the bottom ones, you look in your mirror, the bottom ones come down and roll down about like so. Let's get those combed out like that. Okay, and then the top ones, they're almost, I've noticed they come really, at least on my eyes, they come out almost straight down. Let's go ahead and turn subsurf back on so we can see the smoothed version. You can see that totally changes everything, so we got to fix it. Fix all that. In this instance, I'm going to go ahead and turn the selection back to the path mode, so I can just grab the whole thing. Our front view. Just clean that up. One thing, if you're doing like I'm doing here, I'm wanting to just paint or just comb only the top eyelashes, but the bottom ones keep getting in between the brush and the eyelashes. One thing you can do is just select, hit the B button, and just click and drag across. Well, maybe the C button, and we can just, I guess maybe I have to have the particle vertices visible. Yeah, there we go. And now when I paint or when I comb, it'll only affect what's selected, so that'll make things a little easier. Okay, not sure why it's hiding them across the eyeball, but we'll get it. Missed a spot. There we go. Okay, so let's try the smooth option there. That might help some of that weirdness in there. Yeah. And then maybe some of the across the bottom one too. Okay, so let's call that good. We'll need to copy it to the other side. So I'll select all those. Just hit the A button to select all. Particle mirror. And look a little lower on the right eye. So let's do this. Let's come down here, turn on X mirror here, and then we'll select all these ones on the right side and just kind of wiggle them around, maybe. Thought it might adjust the ones on the right side, but looks like, well, they look like they're combed the same way. Maybe that eyeball is higher up. Let's go back to, back to object mode. The eyeballs are the same, so that looks weird. But anyways, we'll do a quick render and see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and turn our wire display back off. And let's go to our children settings for our eyelashes. We don't need all that bushiness like on the eyebrows. So we'll scroll all the way down here and go and make the duplicates to 5, and then set the radius, the roundness, let's make that 0. And scroll in here, set the radius to even smaller, 0.0. See what 0.1 looks like. That might work. They look really dark here, but when we render, it won't look nearly that visible. Let's set that to 0.005. Maybe that'll help. And then also with the eyelashes, if we set the clump up, that'll make them look a little better also. Okay, so we got our eyelashes and our eyebrows all set. Let's go ahead and save that. And we'll do a quick test render. Hopefully everything will be nice and fine. So we'll render this out. Okay. Yeah, I like it. I think that looks pretty good. So yeah, looks good to me. So let's go ahead and do a render with his head hair turned on as well. And let's go ahead and rename this one while we're at it. Eyelashes. Okay. Go ahead and turn his head hair all on. And see what he's going to look like with all his hair. Do another render. I'll go ahead and pause recording so you don't have to sit here and wait for all that. Well, it's not taking too long, I guess. Okay, so there we go. Eyelashes look like they might be a little too much, too thick, but you can fix that easily. Just set down the children, or go into the material settings maybe and change the width of the root and the tip and all that. But yeah, he's looking pretty good. I'm happy with where this is going. So pretty well done with the hair. I might show you another trick that I came up with for the eyebrows and eyelashes, because it looks good here, but if we were to zoom in and do a render, I'll show you real quick. Grab our camera, front view, hit the G button, middle mouse wheel, scroll in, scroll up so we can zoom in. Too much. Where'd it go? Let's try that again. My mouse goes off the screen, it tends to go crazy. But we hit F11 to compare. See, it looks okay, it looks decent. But we do another render, I'll betcha that they're going to be too thin or too thick, something. They're not going to look as good as they did that far back. So we'll see, they look quite a bit thinner than they did when we were further back. So one way we can fix that, which we're running out of time here for part 14, but I'll show you that real quick in part 15. And we'll use an actual piece of geometry that's essentially a very long triangle instead of the particle hair, and it'll render the same no matter how far away or close up you are. So that helps keep that uniform for long distance shot versus up close. So yeah, it helps things. So anyways, let's escape out and come back here to get it set up. Go ahead and save. And that's going to be it for part 14. Part 15, I'll show you that trick real quick, and then we'll get in and probably start working on some shape keys for his facial expressions. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in part 15.